Administrative law is a topic that I introduced week one with the sources of law in the American judicial system. Here we're going to expand on what is administrative law and how it is created. Administrative law basically is a body of law that's created by governmental agencies. These agencies, they're created by legislators, Congress, even local governments, for the sole purpose of establishing laws or regulations that are unique to a specific type of issue. The Environmental Protection Agency, for instance, that creates, governs, enforces laws that protect the environment. The Federal Aviation Administration regulates air travel. Internal Revenue Service regulates tax laws. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE for short, enforces immigration laws. We have Food and Drug Administration. These are examples of federal agencies, but states have agencies too. The Department of Motor Vehicles, the Department of Social Services, the Health Department, the Labor Department. If you just Google New York agencies, you're going to see an entire list of all the agencies that New York has. You can also do that for the federal government. And of course, local agencies have it too. Counties create laws that govern various areas. For instance, the health department. While the New York State has a health department, so does Clinton County. That's where Plattsburgh is, in Clinton County. But every county in New York State has some version of the health department. And they have local health rules and laws that they have to follow, but they also regulate, they're the body that will regulate the New York State Department laws within the specific county. The very first agency created was the Interstate Commerce Commission. The railroad industry in the late 1800s became the first industry that Congress felt needed regulating. Congress tried to pass laws, i.e. statutes, but there was no real enforcement and no one to really oversee that particular industry or the workings, and really folks lacked expertise. So here, Congress created the ICC, or the Interstate Commerce Commission. Basically, Congress gave the commission the power to regulate rates, investigate harmful practices, have hearings, issue orders, sanction and punish railroads for any wrongdoing. Sadly, this commission is no longer around. With the advancement of technology, they actually became obsolete. And what happened? Well, Congress abolished them. They have that power too, and they did that in 1995. And they transferred any remaining functions of the commission to the Transportation Department. Over the years, many agencies were created, especially those based on social demands. By the 1980s, efforts were made to decrease the number of agencies, but today we still have lots of agencies, and there's still discussions about how much power should these agencies have. So let's dive into this. As I said, federal, state, and local governments all have various agencies. They're the ones that create the body of law for that particular municipal. The federal agencies, however, as you can imagine, have a national impact, meaning they have the greatest power. That's really what we're going to focus on in this discussion, but I will tie in state and local agencies just to have that flavor in here. But all businesses, all of them, are subject to some type or lots of regulation. So let's talk about the types of agencies. Some of the federal agencies are found within the executive branch, and others are just independent agencies. So who's the head of the executive branch? The president, right? So the president has lots of power in that regard, in that he or she can actually fire the agency head at any time. Generally, because of that, generally the agency head falls in line with what the president's preferred policies are. Some examples of executive agencies: the FBI, Department of Energy, Food and Drug Administration, Department of Justice, the IRS, all of the, and many others, those are some examples, fall within the executive branch. With our independent agencies, president doesn't have that kind of power. Even though the president does nominate the heads for those agencies, they cannot remove them or just fire them at will. These leaders will have terms, some sort of term limit, and they can only be removed with cause. Otherwise, they cannot be removed. They have to serve their term. So some examples of these independent agencies include the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, Securities and Exchange Commission, the Environmental Protection Agency. All of these are examples, there's many others, of independent agencies. So how do these agencies get created? Congress passes them. They call that enabling legislation. Basically, it describes the problems or issues Congress believes needs regulating. The actual legislation describes it. The actual legislation creates the actual agency to do it. It defines the agency's powers and responsibilities, which it generally is to create laws regulating the issues, governing the issues, investigating the issues, or even ensuring that regulations are being followed. They enforce those laws. They take actions against violators. So you could see already with that definition of enabling legislation that agencies do have a lot of responsibilities and powers, and we're going to get into that next. Basically, the powers that agencies have include creating laws regulating the issues, investigating or ensuring that the regulations that have been created are being followed, and if they are not, they can enforce and adjudicate those laws. And in the next video, we will go into detail about these three powers.